Hey guys, welcome back to Hook with Anime. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Just outside Kokoyasi village. So that's why she's with this Arlong Nojiko-chan? Asked a young man with blonde hair brushed over the left side of his face, covering his left eye and a curly eyebrow, wearing a black suit, a blue pin-stripped undershirt with a black tie, and a cigarette in his mouth, sitting down on the ground wide-eyed. With him was a slim, somewhat dark-skinned teenager with medium-length black curly hair and a long nose, wearing an olive-green plaid bandana, along with goggles on his head, brown overalls with a white sash and no shirt, a blue and white striped armband on his left arm, carrying a yellow satchel over his shoulder, standing by Nojiko deep in thought. Laying underneath a tree is an average-sized man with lightly tanned skin, green cropped hair, 3 identical gold earrings on his left earlobe, a blue button-up shirt left open showing his bandaged chest, with a green haramaki around his waist, black pants tucked into his black boots, and a black bandana tied around his left bicep, holding a sword with a white handle and sheath in his right hand. He opens his eyes and looks up to the sky in thought. Yes, Sanji, she spent the last 8 years stealing from pirates to buy back the village, replied Nojiko, an average-sized young woman with short, light blue hair, with a red ribbon tied around her head, and tan skin. With a tattoo on her right arm going across her chest, a bracelet on her right wrist, wearing a beige sleeveless shirt, blue pants, purple sandals and pink lipstick. And all while drawing maps for Arlong and his crew, she said softly. So you see, Nojiko said with a stern look. As long as you stay here, saying you're Nami's friend, they'll start getting suspicious. So please, leave, she said seriously to the trio. Ocean a few miles out. A young man about 6 feet tall, an average built, was sleeping on a small boat, wearing a black bandana on his head with the kanji for Maelstrom in white, some blonde hair sticking out, 3 whisker-like marks on each of his cheeks, wearing a red short-sleeved trench coat with black flame design on the bottom, a blue muscle shirt, a necklace with a green gem hanging from it, black pants, with a pouch tied on his right leg, and black combat boots. He opened his eyes showing their wear blue. He sat up, stretched, look around, and spotted an island, thanked Kami, land. I was starting to think I would never get off this boat. Fixing the sail, he started sailing towards the island. With the others, Nojiko was getting ready to leave when she heard someone yell, "Hey!" She and everyone turned, and saw a young man jogging towards them, wearing a black bandana on his head with the kanji for Maelstrom, with some blonde hair coming out, 3 whisker-like marks on each of his cheeks, wearing a red short-sleeved trench coat with black flame design on the bottom, a blue shirt, wearing a necklace, black pants, with a pouch tied on his right leg. Walking up to them, he asked. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, could one of you please tell me where I am? He asked. Nojiko gave him a friendly smile. Hello, my name is Nojiko, she replied while shaking his hand. Sanji. The blonde-haired man introduced himself with a wave. Zoro. The green-hair man said. The famous bounty hunter Urano Zoro? Naruto asked. Yes, I've also heard of you too, Zoro said while crossing his arms in front of his chest. Uzumaki. Maelstrom, Naruto, one of the strongest bounty hunters in the East Blue. He said with a hint of respect in his voice. You've also never failed to bring in a bounty, Sanji said while stepping on his cigarette. Oh, stop, you're making me blush, Naruto exclaimed, rubbing his head. And I'm Captain Usopp, the man with black hair and a long nose, exclaimed in his greeting. Well, it's nice to meet you, Nojiko, Sanji, Zoro, Usopp, Naruto said with a smile. Could one of you show me where to get something to eat? I'm starving. As if on cue, Naruto's stomach growled, he blushed in embarrassment, and chuckled sheepishly while rubbing the back of his head. Nojiko giggled. Sure, follow me, as she started walking towards the village, with Naruto following her with a quick thanks. The others stayed behind, talking about what to do about with the situation with Nami, and Sanji commenting how hot Nojiko is. Kokoyasi village. Naruto and Nojiko were sitting at a table in a restaurant, both just finished their meals, and Nojiko was laughing at a story Naruto was telling her about his pranks he did in his childhood. Ha ha, you really dyed the guy's clothes pink, she asked while trying to hold in her laughter. Yeah, the guy was a real jerk, Naruto said as he finished his drink, wearing only his blue shirt, his trench coat now laying behind him on his chair. He tried to hit a little kid for getting his clothes wet when she jumped in a puddle when he was walking by. Before I stopped him, he had it coming, he said seriously. How did you pull that off? She asked as she calmed down from her laughter. Now Nojiko-chan, they didn't call me the prank master for nothing, Naruto said as he waved his finger at her. I can't give out my secrets now, can I? He asked teasingly. Why don't you tell me about yourself? He asked. She started telling him her life in Kokoyasi, and about how her sister Nami and herself takes care of a tangerine grove their mother Belmere started. On the streets. Meanwhile, a teenager about 5 feet 7 walking down the street wearing short blue trousers, with his hands in the pockets, along with a sleeveless red vest, and wearing sandals. He also has a scar with 2 stitches underneath his left eye and short black hair, wearing a straw hat with a red band around it. He notices everyone around him looking at something. He looks to where they are staring and saw a man with scars all over his body, wearing a police uniform with short sleeves and pants, and a pinwheel in his hat, leading a bunch of Marines. The Marine beside the man wearing a police uniform has the appearance of a rat. He has whiskers on his cheeks, and rat ears attached to his Marine cap. He also has brown hair. Unlike the other Marines, he has a grayish-blue button-up coat that goes down to his feet, with a black belt and blue shoulder pads. That pinwheel. The teen thought, staring at the man in the police uniform's hat as the group passed him. It's so cool, he thought with a big grin as he continued walking down the street. Nojiko and Naruto. As Nojiko and Naruto continued talking, Nojiko noticed a big group walking past the window. Genzo, she thought while looking at the man in front wearing a police uniform. She noticed they were going in the direction of hers and Nami's house. I have a bad feeling about this. She thought with a small frown. What's wrong, Nojiko-san? Naruto asked after noticing her mood and her sudden focus outside the window. He looked out the window and noticed the big group as they just went out of sight. Huh, I wonder what the Marines are doing here. He asked thoughtfully. I'm sorry, Naruto-san, but I have to go. She said in a hurry while getting up and running out the door and heading in the directions that the Marines went. Naruto's narrowed his eyes while looking outside and watching Nojiko run in the direction of the Marines. Standing up and putting on his coat, paying for his and Nojiko's meals, he tightened his bandana, walked outside and disappeared into the crowd. With Nami. Meanwhile, just outside the village inside a small house, with a tangerine orchard outside sat a young, average-sized girl, with short orange hair, and light brown eyes, wearing a green sleeveless shirt, black shorts, high heels, a tattoo on her left shoulder, and her left hand bandaged. I almost have enough berries to buy back the village from Arlong, just one more job ought to do it, soon Koko Yasi will be free, I'll be free. She thought while looking out the window. She got up and walked out the door. She stretches once she steps outside, looks out at the grove with a small smile when suddenly she hears footsteps. Looking to her right she sees the Marines and Genzo walking towards the house. What are Genzo and Marines doing here? She thought. The Marine with rat ears on his hat walked forward. Are you the pirate thief, Nami? Nami just gave a blank stare. Our sources tells us you've acquired a lot of stolen money from pirates. He continued while Nami's and Genzo's eyes widen. And by law all stolen property belongs to the government. He said with a cruel grin. Naruto. Naruto was sitting down at a table outside a building with a young woman. She had short brown hair, blue eyes, wearing a pink dress with high heels and looked to be around her early 20s. So this Arlong is ruling the village, and charging $100,000 berries per adult, and $50,000 per child. He said as he rubbed his chin. Is that right? He asked the young woman. Yes, she replied. Nami, a girl who lives here, is saving to buy it back from him, she said as a waiter brought her tea. She doesn't know that we found out she's saving up the money though. She said. If she knew that, we know she would never leave his crew if things got really bad, she said sipping on her tea. Poor girl, also part of his crew forced to draw maps. She said with a small frown while crossing her arms under her chest. Do you know where she lives? He asked. I talked to her sister Nojiko, and she just ran off. I want to make sure she's alright. He said worriedly. Sure, just go down this road, take a right, and it's the house with a big tangerine grove, she said pointing in the direction behind her. Thank you, he said standing up and started heading down the road. Nami. Sir, I've found something, a Marine yelled as he dug up an old-looking box. Nezum walked over there and opened the box. Incredible, I'm impressed you've gathered this much. He exclaimed as he looked at the gold and old-looking money. And a percentage of this is mine, he thought as he picked up some of the money. Stop it, Nami said softly as she began walking towards him. Stop it, stop it, stop it. She yelled and started running towards him. Nami. Nojiko and Genzo yelled. Nezumi pulled a flintlock pistol out of his pocket and aimed it at Nami, just as Genzo grabbed her arm and Nojiko got in front of her. Nezum pulled the trigger. Bang. Nojiko stiffened as the bullet grazed her right arm. Genzo and Nami looked at Nezumi and saw him holding his arm that had a throwing knife in it and the gun on the ground. Well, that's not nice. Pulling a gun on an unarmed lady. A male voice said behind them. Genzo, Nami, and Nojiko, now holding her arm to stop the blood flow, looked to where the voice came from and saw Naruto there by the house, arm stretched out. Naruto. Nojiko exclaimed, her eyes wide. Nojiko, you know this guy? Nami asked, looking between her sister and Naruto. I just met him earlier today, she said. Who the hell are you? Nezum asked while pulling the knife out of his arm, glaring at Naruto. I'm Uzumaki Naruto jackass. Naruto said glaring right back walking forward. I've heard of you. Maelstrom, what's a bounty hunter doing protecting a thief like her? Nezum asked. The only thief I see here is you. He said. You do know attacking a marine captain is a criminal offense, right? Nezum asked, still holding onto his arm. I should arrest you for this. Naruto just stared at him. Like you could, all I see is a corrupted, weak marine captain who's just doing a pirate's dirty work for him. Naruto said, folding his arm in front of his chest, having heard their conversation before intervening. Nezum gritted his teeth in anger. Men, arrest him. He yelled. The marines all rushed Naruto, intent on taking him down. Naruto just calmly stood there. Naruto. Nojiko yelled out in concern, seeing him just stand there. Naruto just smirked and grabbed two marines' arms and threw them at the house. They hit the house with a sickening crack. He proceeded to beat the other marines with quick punches and kicks. In seconds, all but a few marines were on the ground unconscious, the others writhing in pain. You won't get away with this. Nezum said, a little scared with how easy Naruto took down his men. Naruto just glared at suddenly appeared beside Nezum and grabbed his arm. Leave, now, Naruto said, putting pressure on his arm until crack. Nezum screamed, holding his now broken arm. Before I do something worse than just break your arm, he said angrily. You'll pay for this, you hear me? Nezum asked painfully while he and the other marines now holding up the unconscious ones ran away. Naruto just continued to stare at them till they were out of sight. You okay, Nojiko-chan? Naruto asked, turning around to look at her. I'll be fine, Naruto-san. Nojiko replied, standing up holding her arm. Nojiko, we should get you to the doctor to get that looked at. Nami said while looking over Nojiko's wound. It may need stitches. She's right, we should head over there now. Genzo said, looking over to Naruto. He bowed. Thank you for saving Nojiko's life, and Nami's money. Nami spoke up. Yes, thank you very much, I'm Nami, Nojiko's sister. Nami extended her hand to shake his, which Naruto did. So you're Nami? He asked. Nojiko been telling me all about you. I'm Naruto. He said with a smile. Oh, nothing embarrassing, right? Nami asked nervously. Naruto got a mischievous glint in his eyes. Well, she told me about how you would always run around the house in the nude when you were a toddler after your bath, and how her and your mother would have to chase you around the house and hold you down to put your clothes on. He said with a big grin. While Nojiko and Genzo burst out laughing. Nami's face went bright red. Nojiko. Nami yelled at her sister. Naruto also burst out laughing. Nami just crossed her arms with a huff. After getting their laughter under control, they started to head into town to find the doctor. Nami trailed behind them, fuming over Arlong breaking his promise. Luffy, Kokoyasi village. Luffy was sitting under a palm tree thinking about the pinwheel on Genzo's hat. That pinwheel, he thought with his eyes closed and a big grin. I just thought up a new move. He though excitedly. What happened, Nojiko? He heard someone said. He looked over and saw a group crowding around Nami, that police guy he saw earlier, Nami's sister, and a blonde guy. It was a marine working for Arlong. Genzo said angrily while the doctor and an elderly man, with a wrinkled face, gray hair, and a gray mustache and goatee, along with gray eyebrows. He wears a bandana with a red cross, and sunglasses. He's wearing a striped light green and dark green shirt, under a doctor's coat with a red cross on the side on the right arm and striped shorts. Looked over Nojiko. They would have stolen the money if it wasn't for Naruto here. He said, pointing to Naruto. He never intended to keep his promise. He finished angrily. That bastard. One villager said angrily and clenched his fist. That means he lied to Nami. Another villager said worriedly while she looked over to Nojiko sitting down at a table getting treated. Nami just stood there, eyes shadowed, clenching her fists. Luffy came over grinning. Nami, what's wrong, need help now? He asked, walking up behind Nami. She turned around and looked at him angrily. What are you still doing here? She yelled at him while grabbing his vest. Why don't you just leave our island? She asked while shoving him and running away. What's her problem? Luffy asked with an annoyed look on his face while dusting himself off. Naruto came over to him. Don't take it personally, she just angry. Nojiko-chan was shot, and a marine tried to steal her money on Arlong's order. He said, standing next to him. Who are you? Luffy asked, staring at Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto introduced himself holding out his hand. And you are? He asked. Monkey D. Luffy, the next king of the pirates. Luffy said, shaking his hand. Nice to meet you, Luffy. Arlong Park. A bunch of fishmen were talking amongst themselves. One sitting in front of the others is a large, muscular, and light blue saw shark fishman whose most distinctive trait is his saw-shaped nose. He has long, black hair sprouting from the back of his neck, reaching down to his shoulders, under a brown ushanka, covering his head. He has a fin on his nape, surrounded by his hair, and gills on both the sides of his neck. A sun tattoo is on the left side of his chest, while another tattoo is on his lower left arm. He's wearing a short-sleeved, unbuttoned yellow shirt decorated by many black lightning-like spots, brown Bermuda shorts, a purple sash around the waist, and simple sandals. He also wearing a lot of jewels. He has a golden chain bracelet around his left wrist and 2 golden bracelets around each ankle, with straw-like decorations hanging from them. On his hands are what appear to be rings, decorated by colorful gems. Arlong. They heard someone yell. The one sitting down looked over to the entrance and saw Nami glaring at him. What's up with the look, Nami? Arlong asked. A bunch of Marines you bribed just came up to steal my money, she said as she walked over to him and grabbed his shirt. What happened to that crap about never breaking a promise dealing with money? She yelled at him angrily. Arlong grabbed her face. Tell me, Nami, he said, looking at her with a blank stare. What promise did I break? Shahahaha, he said, laughing. Jerk. Nami yelled, pushing his hand down from her mouth. What are you going to do now, leave? He asked, now holding her by the neck. Nami's eyes widens, remembering Genzo's word from earlier. If you do, I'll kill everyone in the village, he said with a dark look. Nami slapped his hand away and ran toward the village. Should we go get her? A octopus fishman, with 6 arms, said. He has pink skin and a gray hair styled with 5 spikes. He has a muscular build and has suction cups on each arm. He also has a tattoo in the shape of a sun on his forehead. No, Nami won't go anywhere, Arlong said. She cares too much about the villagers to do anything stupid, he said with a grin. Besides, I'll keep my promise when Nami is finished making maps of all the oceans, she'll be free, shahahaha. He finished with a laugh. That's really heartless, Chuu, said a muscular fishman, with thick lips and blonde hair. A tattoo on his right shoulder. Wearing a necklace, striped blue vest, dark brown leather pants, and sandals. Yeah, Chuu, it'll be a long time before she gets that much money again, Arlong replied. They all started laughing. Yeah, decades even, a random fishman said. Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp. Well, we should start looking for Luffy now, Usopp said while standing up. Maybe even Naruto too if he'll help. He looked over to Sanji and noticed he was just sitting there with a small smile on his face. What's up? He asked. Just thinking of good things and sending them over to Nami, he replied while lighting a cigarette with a match. Usopp just stared at him. I bet that's not all you're thinking of, Arrow Cook, he accused. Sanji stood up. I'm fighting for Nami, is that so wrong? He asked, annoyed. Well, yes, Usopp said. We're not just doing this for just Nami, but the whole village. Enough, Zoro said, grabbing his sword and standing up. Let's go. He and the others started heading into town to look for Luffy. With villagers, Genzo and Nojiko, who now had her right arm bandaged, were standing with the other villagers, all holding makeshift weapons and swords. For 8 years we've lived under Arlong's rule, he yelled. We promised to not start anything for Nami's sake, but after trying to break his promise to Nami we can no longer stand by. He continued, getting shouts of support from everyone. Yeah, let's kick his ass for Nami, a villager yelled. What if he sends another marine, or Nezumi comes back with more men to steal all of Nami's money? Genzo said. We need to stand up and fight. Genzo finished, raising his sword in the air. Yeah, we may not win, but we'll give them one hell of a fight, another villager said. Everyone wait, a voice said. Everyone looked forward, or behind them in Genzo's and Nojiko's case, and saw Nami walking towards them smiling. It's all right, I'll just go on another job, she said. I still have the money, it won't take long. She continued, hoping to stop them from fighting. We won't be living under Arlong's rule for long. No, we need to fight him now, he'll just do something else to keep you from raising the money, Nojiko said with a frown. No, I won't let you, Nami yelled, pulling out a knife. Genzo walked up to Nami and pulled her in a one-armed hug. It's all right, he said softly. You won so much for us, he continued. Let us do this for you. Nami just froze as Genzo, Nojiko and the rest of the villagers ran past her. Nami fell to her knees and looked hatefully at her tattoo, remembering Arlong's promise 8 years ago. She pulled her knife and started stabbing her tattoo. A hand grabbed her wrist before she could continue stabbing. She looked up behind her and saw Luffy. You're still here? She asked while tears fell down her face, hand covering her mouth. Yep, Luffy said calmly. I told you to leave, didn't I? She asked angrily while digging into the ground. Yes, you did, Luffy replied with his hat shadowing his eyes. Well, I don't need you here, just leave, she said, throwing dirt back at his feet. Leave, just leave. She stopped. Luffy, I need your help, she said, sniffing a bit. Luffy stared at her for a second. Finally he took his hat and put it on Nami's head. She stared up at in surprise at what he did. She grabbed the hat and remembers back to the fight with Buggy. Don't you ever touch my hat, Luffy said to Buggy. Of course you're my friend and that's what friends do for each other, Luffy said as he started walking. He's going to PAAAY, he yelled to the sky. Looking behind her, she saw Naruto leaning against a building with his arms crossed in front of his chest, Zoro sitting down at a table legs crossed holding his sword, Sanji standing smoking a cigarette, and Usopp sitting on the ground arms crossed in front of his chest, goggle over his eyes looking down. Let's go, Luffy said as he continued walking. Right, they replied. All of them started walking towards Arlong Park. In front of Arlong Park. Let us in, Genzo yelled. The villagers were standing in front of the gates, but two people, sitting on the ground, blocked their way in with their swords, bleeding and bruised. No way, the one on their right said. An average-sized man with somewhat tanned skin. He wearing a pair of sunglasses and has a black tattoo on his left cheek of the kanji 4, C. He has short, black hair and is usually seen carrying his sword. His eyebrows seem to be pointing down to make a scowl. He's wearing a blue jacket over a dark shirt, light-colored pants, and boots. When we heard about what happened to Nami and Neki, we rushed over here to kick Arlong's ass. He finished. Yeah, but we got our asses kicked, but just by a hair. The one on the left said. A slightly tanned man replied, wearing a black shirt with a green coat and red headgear over his shaved head. He also wearing plaid yellow shorts over his unshaven legs, and dark shoes. We have business inside with Arlong, Genzo said, hoping to make the two men move. No can do. The one with dark hair said. You see, we're waiting for certain men to come. The one wearing the headgear continued. Who are these men? Genzo asked. Don't you worry, if these men can't defeat Arlong, then all hope is really lost. The one with dark hair answered. The men suddenly stood up. Here they are, they exclaimed. The villagers looked behind them and saw Naruto, Zoro, Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp walking towards them. Huh, who's that with them? The dark-haired one asked, pointing to Naruto. Nojiko's eyes widened. Naruto, she exclaimed, making the two men's jaws drop. You mean Naruto is in Uzumaki Naruto? The shaved-haired one asked. Yes, Nojiko answered. Okay, now if he can't defeat them, then we should really give up. The dark-haired one said. Naruto is like a living legend. Move out of the way, please, Luffy said as the group walked up to the crowd. He continued walking over to the gate. He looked at it for a second and pulled back his arm. Inside, moments earlier, Arlong and the other fishmen were all laughing. Do you think those two losers were with Zoro's gang? Arlong asked a fishman beside him. The fishman, wearing a dark blue gi with a black belt, a sun tattoo on his right chest and fins on his elbows, replied. No way, they were way too weak. They continued laughing till they heard. Bang. They all looked at the gate and saw a dent on one of the doors. Arlong's eyes widened. Bang. Another dent. What the hell is that? He asked. Then with a final bang, the gates came crumbling down. They saw a teen with a red vest, blue shorts, and sandals, leaning forward with one arm stretched in front of him. Which one of you is Arlong? The teen asked, straighting up, glaring at them. Chapter 2. Last time. Bang. They all looked at the gate and saw a dent on one of the doors. Arlong's eyes widened. Bang. Another dent. What the hell is that? He asked. Then with a final bang, the gates came crumbling down. They saw a teen with a red vest, blue shorts, and sandals, leaning forward with one arm stretched in front of him. Which one of you is Arlong? The teen asked, straighting up, glaring at them. Now, Arlong. Arlong asked, staring at Luffy calmly from his seat. Well, that's my name. Who are you? Luffy started walking towards him. Me, I'm Luffy. Luffy said. Luffy, what the hell are you? Arlong asked him, his eyes shadowed by his hat. I'm a pirate, Luffy said seriously while glaring at Arlong. Huh, Hachi said, his eyes widening, pointing at Luffy. It's that guy we met earlier. The one who said he likes to take walks. A couple of fishmen got in Luffy's way. Hold it, one said, with blue skin and a shaved head, grabbing onto his shoulders. Yeah, if you want to talk with the boss, you need to talk to us first. The other one said, a green-skinned overweight with curly dark green hair, wearing a hat, pink shirt and a tattoo on his stomach. Come on, let's. That's as far as he got when Luffy grabbed both of them and slammed their heads together, knocking them out. Get out of my way, he said, and started walking towards Arlong again. Arlong's and all the other fishmen eyes widen, surprised that a human knocked out two fishmen with ease. What's a pirate want with me anyway? Arlong asked, hiding his surprise. Luffy said nothing as he walked up to Arlong, pulled back his fist, and punched him in the face. Arlong went tumbling over to the wall and hit it. When the dust cleared, it showed a big hole in the wall with Arlong sitting down, head down. The villagers looked on in awe that someone was strong enough to land a hit on Arlong. Arlong looked up at Luffy, glaring. Who the hell are you? He asked quietly. Luffy snorted. Flashback, Luffy, I need your help, Nami said, sniffing a bit. End flashback, that's for making our navigator cry, Luffy said angrily. A bunch of fishmen came out of the water. Let's get him. Yeah, kick his ass. They all jumped at Luffy, intent on beating him until a fury of fists and kicks knocked them out. Back off, you're out of your league, Sanji said as he and Naruto walked up beside Luffy. Geez, Luffy, you just had to run in ahead of us. Sanji said, annoyed, looking at Luffy. Don't worry, I can handle this clown. Luffy said, arms crossed, still staring at Arlong. Sanji scoffed. Idiot, we're not worried, he said, staring at Arlong. Yeah, Naruto said, cracking his neck. We just didn't want you hogging all the fun. He finished with a grin. Well, I don't mind if you guys hog it all. Usopp said, walking over, shaking and sweating a little. Well, I can see you're raring to go as usual. Zoro said, coming up behind Usopp. Hey, that's him, the swordsman I told you guys about. Hachi said as he pointed at Zoro. Roronoa Zoro, Karubi said with his arms crossed, looking at the group. Really, that bastard got me, look, sign and hinker. Hachi gained a confused look. Wait a minute, hook, line, and sinker, he said with a hand on his chin. A couple of fishmen got up. Hey, look, it's that long nose, one said. Hachi eyes widened. What, but Nami killed him, we all saw it, he said, surprised. Well, he's still alive, which means. Chuu said seriously behind Hachi. That Nami's a traitor all along, I knew it. Karubi said, looking at Usopp. Just who are those guys? A villager asked as Johnny and Yosaku, who were still blocking the entrance with their swords. Hold it, they said. That guy just decked Arlong. The doctor said, jaw dropped. No human should be able to do that, it's impossible. Genzo asked, odd that someone could do that to Arlong. Nojiko just watched wide-eyed. Who are those guys? She asked. Now do you see why we're keeping you out? Yosaku said. You'll just get in their way. Johnny finished. But why are they doing this? There must be a reason. Genzo asked, confused that a bunch of strangers would fight Arlong for no reason. Reason? They made Nami and Neki cry. Johnny said seriously. And do they really need any more of a reason than that to put their lives on the line for a nakama? Yosaku said, just a serious. I get it now, Arlong said quietly. You want Nami for yourselves, but. He finished with a laugh. The girl is mine, shahaha. He finished. Yeah, you morons aren't worth Arlong's time, Hachi said as he walked over, chuckling. He stopped in front of them. We got something else to deal with, you humans, he said as he turned to the ocean and played his mouth like a bugle. Oh no, not him, Nojiko said with a scared look. Suddenly everything started to shake, and a whirlpool started to form in the water in front of Hachi. What the hell is going on? Naruto said with a raised eyebrow. Now all of you guys are fish food, Momu rise. Suddenly something popped out of the water. Ah, Usopp screamed. That must be the monster that destroyed Gosa village. He yelled, getting behind Naruto. When the water cleared, a giant sea cow-looking creature, with a big round nose, a gold nose ring, horns, and green spots throughout his body with a bump on its head, crying. It's real, a villager asked. Oh, no, it's Momu, the doctor said. Momu, seeing Luffy, and Sanji, froze. Oh look, it's him again, Luffy said, looking up at Momu. It must be a friend of the fishmen, Sanji stated. Wow, I never saw a sea beast before, Naruto said, looking up at Momu. Momu remembered what happened the last time he saw them. Flashback, pistol. Luffy punched him in the face. Muton shot. Sanji kicks him. Flashback ends, scared Momu starts to swim away. Hey, where are you going, Momu? Hey Momu, come back, Hachi yelled at Momu, waving his arms. Arlong calmly looked over at Momu retreating form. Leaving so soon. Now that's a shame, he said, eyes shadowed. Momu froze, sweating a little. But I suppose if you want to run away, then who am I to stop you? He said with a bloodthirsty grin. Well, go on, he finished. Momu, suddenly gaining courage, started swimming back towards Luffy with a bunch of fishmen charging them also. RAAWRR, Momu roared, coming in fast. Usopp screamed. Holy crap, it's coming right for us. Zoro opened his sword lightly. Naruto cracked his knuckles with a big grin, and Sanji smirked. Ah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Usopp continued screaming as Momu and the fishmen came closing in. You're all mine, you big dumb cow, Luffy said, smashing his fist together. He stomped his feet in the ground up to the ankle. Looks like Luffy has a plan. For once, Sanji said, staring at Luffy. Zoro put his hand up to his chin. We'll see, I have a bad feeling about this, he said simply. What's he doing? One fishman asked, wondering what the human had planned. Who cares, let's get him, another one yelled. They started charging Luffy again. Luffy spun around a few times, then stretched his arms up to the now crying Momu horns. His arms stretched, Hachi said, wide-eyed and jaw dropped. Arlong looked on amazed. He must have devil fruit powers, he exclaimed. Let's get him. Luffy pulled his body back, getting ready to do his move. Naruto, Sanji, Zoro, and Usopp's eyes widened. Let's get out of here, Zoro exclaimed. Wait, what's he doing? Sanji asked. I don't know, but it can't be good, Zoro answered, pushing Sanji back. They all starting running out of the way. Time for something new, Luffy yelled. Gomu Gomu no. Pinwheel, gum gum pinwheel. He started spinning, destroying the roof on Arlong's building, and taking out all the fishmen. He then proceeded to throw Momu out of Arlong Park and into the ocean a few feet out. Alright Arlong, I didn't come here to play games and kick your cronies' asses. Luffy said, panting a little with his hands on his knees. I came here to kick your ass, so come on. He exclaimed, turning around and pointing at Arlong. Arlong just sat down, eyes shadowed. Oh, I will, he said with a dark grin. He looked at Luffy. In fact, I was just thinking of the most painful way to kill you. He said calmly. That was the worst plan ever. Sanji yelled at Luffy while kicking him in the head lightly. Yeah, were you trying to kill us too? Usopp yelled at Luffy. Luffy fidgeted. Uh-oh. He said. Hey Zoro. Naruto said beside him. Zoro looked over to Naruto. Your captain's either a genius or an idiot. He deadpanned. Zoro face-palmed then sighed. Sometimes I wonder myself. He said. I can't believe someone's strong enough to lift that beast. The doctor exclaimed. That boy's incredible. Genzo said, awed at what Luffy just accomplished. It's like the gods themselves are fighting. Luffy continued to fidget. What are you doing now? Usopp yelled, asked. Are you trying to ruin something else? Hachi knelt down and looked at the fishman at his feet. How dare you hurt our brothers? He exclaimed. Well, it looks like we're going to have to fight. Kurubi said seriously, staring at Naruto. Yeah, or show you the difference between our species. Chuu exclaimed. Hey you. Kurubi said to Naruto. But got no response. Hey. No response. Hey, stop ignoring me. Naruto looked over to him. You say something? He asked with a bored look. Zoro, Usopp, Sanji, and Luffy snickered. Kurubi gained a tick mark on his head. Who the hell are you? He asked, keeping his anger in check. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto answered. Arlong, Hachi, Kurubi, and Chuu's eyes widened. So what's the strongest bounty hunter in the East Blue doing here? Arlong asked. Here to try and take my bounty. As if some human could beat me. He taunted. Naruto snorted. Hell no, why would I go after someone weak? He replied. Arlong was seeing red that some human thought he was weak. I'm only here because I can't stand scum like you. Naruto said, glaring at Arlong. Calm down, sir. Kurubi said, looking towards Arlong. Yeah, if you lose your temper against these weaklings, you're liable to destroy the whole park. Chuu. Chuu said, hands on his waist, looking at Naruto. Please just let us kill these weaklings. Hachi exclaimed, raising his hands in the air. Arlong put his hand on his chin. All right, go ahead, he said, calming down. Hey guys, there's something I need to tell you. Luffy said from his spot. Hachi took a deep breath and his stomach expanded. Zoro looked on, confused. Huh, what the hell is that octopus doing? He asked. Sanji took a drag out of his cigarette, and smiled. You know, octopus is great when sliced real thin, and salted. He stated, looking at Hachi. Add some water, and paprika, you've got a great snack while drinking. He finished. Luffy waved his hand in front of Sanji's face. Hey guys, listen, I'm really in trouble here. He said, hoping to get the guy's attention. Take this, Zero Vision Hachi ink jet. Zoro, and Sanji's eyes widen. Hachi spits ink out at Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Naruto. Everyone but Luffy dodged, who got covered in ink. Zoro looked up to Luffy from his spot on the ground. You idiot, why did you just stand there? He asked. Ah, I can't see squat. Luffy yelled, covering his eyes. Hachi walked over to the rubble Luffy made earlier. Now to finish you off. He said, picking up a piece of the roof. Usopp, hiding behind a pillar, yelled. Come on, get out of there, Luffy. Luffy tried to pull his feet. Yeah, that's the problem, I can't run, I can't even walk. He said as Hachi walked over to him. What? Naruto said, dumbfounded. My feet are kind of stuck. Luffy said, still trying to pull his feet out. What, but you're the one who put them in the ground in the first place. Usopp yelled back. Zoro face-palmed. Always thinking ahead, aren't you, Luffy? He asked, quietly embarrassed for his captain. Sanji just sighed. One Hachi ink jet served on the rocks. Hachi exclaimed, throwing down the roof. Luffy, finally getting the ink out of his eyes, looked up wide-eyed. The roof slammed down onto Luffy. Arlong and the others looked on with smirks until crack. The roof cracked into small pieces. Hachi looked on, jaw dropped. Whaa, he exclaimed. Naruto stood in the middle, fist raised in the air. Whoa, that's so cool. Naruto, you gotta join my crew. Luffy said, arms raised, excited. Naruto looked back at Luffy. We'll talk about it after this is over, alright? Naruto asked. Alright. Answered with a big grin. Naruto looked at Sanji and Zoro. You guys picked quite a character for your captain. He said to them. Yeah, he's a real big idiot. Zoro said. Luffy's awesome. Hey, come on. Usopp said, a little bit angered at Zoro's opinion of Luffy. But the truth of the matter is, that our idiot of a captain far better than a gang that preys on a lady. Sanji said, calmly, looking at the fishmen. A lady? Kurubi scoffed. You mean to tell me you rushed into death for a lousy girl? He asked, arms crossed, staring at Sanji. I think that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Naruto and Sanji glared at him. Lousy girl? Sanji asked, walking up beside Naruto. He took a drag from his cigarette, pulled it out and knocked off some ash. You insult Nami one time and you'll go from fishman to fish sticks, got it? He said, pointing at Karubi. I'm sure you've got some skill for a human, but chivalry from a pirate seems fake. Karubi said, staring at Sanji. I'm damn good at what I do, and I guarantee there's nothing fake about my desire to help a lovely lady in need. Sanji said, glaring at Karubi. Naruto, let me handle this trash. He said to Naruto. Naruto looked at him. Alright, this is your crew's fight, I'll try to stay out of it if I can, but no promises. Naruto replied, getting out of the way. Meanwhile, Usopp was trying to get Luffy out of the ground by pulling him. Nice work, but I'm still stuck. Luffy said, uninterested. They're still stuck? Usopp asked. Yep. We could pull all day and they would still be stuck. Luffy said, picking his nose with his pinky. Well, are you even trying at all, or do you want to stay stuck? Usopp asked, yelled at Luffy. Hachi looked at them. Didn't anyone tell you the penalty for playing in Arlong Park is? Quote. He said, picking up another piece of a roof. Death. He yelled. Get unstuck. Get unstuck. Usopp said, trying to run with Luffy under his arm. Hachi was about to throw the roof out at them until Zoro stopped him. Yo, Octopus. He said, pointing his sword at Hachi. They're busy right now. Why don't you take me on instead? He asked seriously. Hachi looked at Zoro for a second. Ooh, you're Zoro. I forgot. Hachi said. He then brought down the roof, intent on crushing Zoro in one shot. Zoro dodged by jumping in the air a few feet away, facing away. You won't get away with tricking me. He yelled. Zoro looked back at him. And how dare you viciously kill all my brothers? He said, glaring at Zoro. Oh, that's old news. I don't give a damn what your reason for killing me is. Zoro said, now turned around looking at Hachi. The tables turned. He said, pulling his sword out of his sheath. You're not the hunters anymore, fish freaks we are. Yeah, you tell him, Zoro. Usopp said, wiping the sweat from his forehead with his free arm. That octopus guy is yours, nice. He said with a thumbs up. With the arm holding Luffy. Luffy. Usopp exclaimed, seeing Luffy fly back, hitting Chuu, sending him on the ground. Hey, I'm back, Luffy said, swinging back and forth a little. Chuu jumped up, glaring at Usopp. Oh, you're dead, he said. Oh crap, Usopp said, crying a little. I get it now, you must want me to kill you. Chuu said as he started walking towards Usopp. Usopp, seeing this, made a beeline for the gate with Chuu coming up behind him. Chuu stopped at the gate, seeing all the villagers. Hey, you're all from Koko Yasi? He said, looking at the villagers. Judging from all those weapons, it must mean a rebellion, he said thoughtfully. Well, I guess we'll have to make an example out of you all, he said, taking notice of Nojiko. I think we'll start with you, Noji. That's as far as he finished before Naruto's fist impacted with his face. Now, I said that I wouldn't fight, Naruto said, glaring down at Chuu. But threatening people who have nothing to do with this fight. That's something I won't just stand by and watch, he said. Hey, Usopp, he asked, looking over to Usopp, who had his slingshot out and was ready to shoot Chuu. Yeah, he replied, letting his slingshot down. You don't mind if I steal your fight, do you? Naruto asked. No, Usopp replied. In fact, you can fight in the name of Captain Usopp. Usopp yelled, striking a pose. Regite. Naruto deadpanned. Now where were we? He asked, looking at Chuu, who was now getting up, a bruise forming on his cheek. He spat a little blood out and glared at Naruto. That was good, I'll give you that, but it'll take more than that too. Quote. He was interrupted by Naruto's foot kicking him by the water. Chuu looked at the water before drinking some and shooting it out like bullet. Naruto easily dodged. Man, you're slow, Naruto said before disappearing from his line of sight. Chuu looked around for him for a second before he felt tremendous pain shoot through him from his back. Naruto now standing where Chuu was with leg stretched out. Why, you bastard, Chuu exclaimed before firing multiple shots at Naruto, who dodged them all. The villagers stared at Naruto disbelievingly. Who is this man? Genzo asked. He's not even trying. Johnny looked at them. Uzumaki. Maelstrom, Naruto, he's one of, if not the strongest person in the whole East Blue. He said to Genzo. He's taken down pirates far stronger than Arlong, he can handle this. Yosaku finished. You done yet? Naruto asked with a bored look. Chuu had a tick mark before he glared at Naruto. Why are you fighting for them? Chuu asked, panting a little. Why? Naruto asked, not believing what he heard. Because I'm strong enough to make sure people like Arlong are taken down, he replied before apering beside Chuu and hitting him into the wall beside the gate. He appeared beside Chuu and smashed his head a couple of times against the wall before throwing him back a few feet. I'll get you with my strongest attack, Chuu said, making a run for the water. Naruto appeared before him, grabbed his head with both hands and smashed it against his knee. Chuu, now dazed, turned his back to Naruto, holding his head in pain. You son of a. He was pulled around only to see Naruto already in mid-air in a horizontal position. Naruto grabbed his head with his right arm and descended onto the ground. 1. Chuu, after hitting the ground face first, rolled over to his back looking up at Naruto. What are you?" he asked fearfully. Naruto looked down at him with a hard look before bringing his foot up. "Your worst nightmare," he said plainly before bringing his foot down onto Chuu's face, making a good-sized crater. "Hey Usopp, how was that?" he asked Usopp, who now looked on, his jaw dropped. He quickly gathered his bearings. "Yeah, now that a fight worthy of one of my underlings," Usopp said. Naruto and everyone else just sweat dropped. Yay. Naruto stopped, seeing Arlong holding Luffy above his head, feet still encased in stone, about to throw him in the water. "Shit," he cursed before running over to them. "Fool," Arlong said, Luffy hands in his mouth. "Ouch," Luffy said painfully before biting Arlong on his arm. Right before Arlong threw him in the ocean, Naruto came and kicked him hard in the stomach. Arlong went flying towards the wall and hit it hard. When the dust settled, Hachi and Karubi expected Arlong to be alright, but instead they saw him on the ground holding his stomach, coughing with a lot of blood coming out of his mouth. "You alright, Luffy?" Naruto asked, looking at Luffy, who landed at his feet. "Yeah, thanks. I thought I was a goner there," Luffy replied. "How dare yo." Whatever Hachi and Karubi was going to say died in their mouth when they saw Naruto, or rather what was behind Naruto. Naruto was glaring at him with the image of a nine-tailed fox behind him, its blood-red eyes glaring at them and baring its razor-sharp teeth. 2. Shut up, Naruto plainly said. "I know you all pirates and all, but doing what Arlong was about to do is just the coward's way out." He turned back to Luffy, the image of the fox now gone. "Don't move, Luffy," Naruto said before raising his hand and bringing it down onto the stone around Luffy's feet and breaking it up. Luffy got up and stretched his legs. "Thanks, Naruto, now I can kick Arlong's ass," Luffy exclaimed and started walking towards Arlong until Naruto stopped him. "Hold up," he said. "I kind of knocked the wind out of him, let him get his second win first," he said before looking at Hachi and Karubi. "Besides, Sanji and Zoro need to take out the trash first, so let them finish up before you fight," he said, pulling Luffy towards the gate. "Okay," Luffy said, dejected at having to prolong his fight. "Wait," Naruto said, stopping before the water. "You should wash that ink off of you so it won't hinder you," he said before taking Luffy's arm and dunking him underwater for a moment. "Man, now I feel weak," Luffy said from his spot over Naruto's shoulder as they came over to the gate and sat down. "Yeah, now just rest up for your fight," Usopp said, standing by the gate with the rest of the villagers. Arlong, wiping the blood from his mouth, stared at Naruto with a little fear. What the hell is that man?" he asked. "Hey Calamari, let's fight," Zoro said, holding his sword in his left hand. Hachi, getting over his fear of Naruto, looked over at Zoro. "Bring it," he simply said. "You take the fish," Zoro said to Sanji, who took a drag from his cigarette. "And you slice up the octopus," Sanji said, blowing smoke. They both took off running towards the fishmen. "I'll finish this in 5 seconds," Zoro said, bringing up his sword. "I'll finish this in 3," Sanji said, running beside Zoro. "Why are you rushing towards your death?" Karubi said as he blocked a kick from Sanji. Hachi ink jet. Hachi shot more ink at Zoro, who dodged it, bringing his sword down. "I'll never lose a fight again," he thought. Naruto, Usopp stared on while the villagers watched with bated breath. Chapter 3. Last time. They both took off running towards the fishmen. "I'll finish this in 5 seconds," Zoro said, bringing up his sword. "I'll finish this in 3," Sanji said, running beside Zoro. "Why are you rushing towards your death?" Karubi said as he blocked a kick from Sanji. Hachi ink jet. Hachi shot more ink at Zoro, who dodged it, bringing his sword down. "I'll never lose a fight again," he thought. Naruto, Usopp stared on while the villagers watched with bated breath. Now, Zoro versus Hachi. "I'll beat your ass real quick, octopus," Zoro said as he ran towards Hachi. Hachi ink jet. Hachi shot out more ink at Zoro. Zoro dodged. He came up to Hachi and swung his sword at him. Hachi ducked under the sword, cutting some of his hair off. "Ooh, you bastard, you cut my hair," Hachi exclaimed, holding his head. "Oh well, it's just hair, it'll grow back," Hachi said, calming down. "Now Zoro, you can't beat me, I have 6 arms that will amaze you," he said, waving his arms around. "Shut up," Zoro said, annoyed, and charged Hachi. Hachi. Triple. Sword. Catch. "Now, you will see my skills," Hachi said, bringing each of his hands together as Zoro brought his sword down but missed. "OOWW. That hurt," Hachi said as a little blood came down his face. "I don't have time for this crap," Zoro said, panting and sweating a little bit. Sanji versus Karubi. Sanji looked over to Zoro. Is he still hurt? He thought while seeing Zoro panting and sweating. "Lose focus, and you'll lose your life," Karubi exclaimed, trying to hit Sanji in the back of the head. Sanji dodged at the last second. "I bet you'll taste good with a little butter," Sanji said, throwing a few kicks at Karubi only for him to block everyone. Zoro versus Hachi. Damn, not now, Zoro said weakly. I've got no time left. He charged Hachi. Why don't you just die? Zoro yelled, trying to slice Hachi. Hachi dodged by jumping up and grabbed onto one of the pillars with the suction cups on his arms. Too bad. I'm stuck, Hachi taunted from the top of the pillar. Upside down. Zoro stared up for a moment. Quote. Don't just stick there, get the hell down here and fight. He yelled up at Hachi. Hachi just smirked. Damn coward, Zoro said, panting heavily. Naruto and the others. What the hell is wrong with Zoro? Naruto asked. He's not looking too good. Yosaku looked at Naruto from his spot on the ground. Well, right before we came here he fought Mihawk. He told. Naruto's eyes widened. Dracule? Hawk eyes, Mihawk the strongest swordsman in the world? He asked. Yosaku and Johnny nodded their heads. Yeah, it was when we were still the Baratie right before we came here. Johnny continued. He beat Zoro with a small blade he keeps around his neck, broke 2 of his blades with one move, and cut his chest real bad too. I'm surprised Zoro's still standing. Johnny finished worriedly. Damn, Naruto whistled. I'm impressed he even survived fighting against someone of his caliber. Naruto said with newfound respect for Zoro. Hey Naruto, Genzo asked. Yeah, Naruto answered, looking up at Genzo. How come you don't step in to fight Arlong and the others? We saw how you fought against Chuu. He asked while pointing at the downed Chuu, his eyes rolled back and blood coming from his mouth and nose. And you pretty much knocked out Arlong with one hit. He then pointed over to Arlong, who's now sitting with one hand still holding his stomach. Because, Naruto said, pointing at Luffy. I promised Luffy. Flashback right after Nami ran away. Hey Luffy. Naruto asked, looking down at Luffy, who was sitting down under a palm tree, arms behind his head. Yeah, Luffy answered. Naruto sighed. This Arlong needs to go down, I can't stand people like him. Luffy looked down, his hat shadowed his eyes. I know, he said seriously. But Nami needs to want my help. Luffy continued. I can't help her if she doesn't want it. Naruto looked up to the sky. Well, I have a feeling she's going to ask for your help soon, and when she does, I want in. Luffy looked back to Naruto. No, he said plainly. No, Naruto asked, dumbfounded. Luffy continued. She's our nakama, we need to fight. Naruto smiled. Okay, but I still want to come. Just for insurance. Luffy smiled. Okay, that all right with me. Flashback end. Luffy wants to fight Arlong because Nami is his crewmate, and nakama. Naruto finished. Like I said earlier, I'm just here as a safety precaution. Zoro versus Hachi. Zoro, still panting, looked up to Hachi, who was still holding onto the pillar. Hey Zoro, I have a question I've been meaning to ask you. He said to Zoro curiously. You're known for using Santoryu, 3-sword style, where are your other 2 swords? He asked, confused. Because you're running scared with one, why would I need 3? Zoro said. Ha, I've just been playing around with you. Hachi said with a grin. Humans can't defeat me, I could tell you why, but it will be fun to show you. He finished. Damn it, Zoro thought. I can't fight back the pain. His vision got blurry, and my fever's getting worse. He finished, wobbling a little. Everyone looked on in surprise. Crap, I thought as much. Sanji said, looking over to Zoro. You still haven't recovered from your fight with Hawk Eyes. Johnny and Yosaku looked on worriedly. Zoro and Ikki. They both yelled. Naruto stood up, leaned against the wall in thought. Ha, I'm not falling for that trick. Hachi exclaimed. I wasn't born yesterday. I'll be right back, it's time for you to see my true skills. Hachi said, going up onto the undamaged part of the roof and going inside a window. He came out with a sword in each of his 6 hands. Tremble before Hachi and his Rokutoryu, 6-sword style. Zoro just collapsed. Hey, you're not supposed to die yet, I haven't even killed you. Hachi yelled at Zoro. No, Zoro and Ikki. Johnny yelled. I knew it, he's been faking this whole time. Yosaku exclaimed. What he's just been through would kill any normal man. He continued. But he just kept going. Doctor looked at them. What did you say? He asked, yelled. Naruto was about to run over, but a hand grabbed onto his ankle. He looked down and saw Luffy now sitting up holding onto him. Wait, he said calmly. Zoro won't forgive us if we interrupted his fight. He continued. I know he can win this even with that injury, he just needs to catch his breath. He looked to Naruto. I know Sanji can win his fight too. Sanji versus Karubi. Damn it, Sanji cursed. I knew something was strange with him walking around like nothing was wrong after a brutal fight. He's laid out Florida. That's as far as he got when he sensed something. He turned around only for Karubi's fist to hit his stomach. Sanji was sent flying through the wall of Arlong Park and landed 15 feet away. I told you to pay attention. He said, arms stretched out. I'm a 40th dan in Fishman karate. Sanji. Johnny and Yosaku yelled, seeing Sanji lay still in the road. They're taken care of, Arlong. Kurubi said to Arlong. Ah, that's all, Hachi said dejectedly. They did manage to make a bit of a mess. Kurubi said looking at the damage done to Arlong Park. No matter, as long as Arlong Park still stands it's alright. Arlong said. True, what do you want to do with Zoro, and the other guy? He asked. Toss them in the sea, they were mildly entertaining. Arlong answered. No fair, Hachi exclaimed raising his swords. He can't be dead, he continued. I didn't get the chance to beat him and take his fame for myself, well it's not like some human could beat a wilder of Rokutoryu. Hachi moved his swords around creating a small tornado. Behold the might of what only a master of Rokutoryu can do. He continued. Hachi calm down, Kurubi said. You'll destroy Arlong Park. Hachi stopped and looked thoughtful. Oh yeah, he said sheepishly. I forgot I can destroy stuff. He looked around for a minute. Hey, where's Chuu? He asked. Then he saw him by the gate unconscious. Hey, who beat him? He asked the villagers. Naruto raised his hand. I did, he answered. He threatened innocent people who wasn't going to fight. I was not going to stand by and let him get away with that. How did some human beat Chuu? Kurubi sneered. Naruto shrugged. I'm awesome, he said simply. Kurubi and Hachi glared at Naruto. Kurubi smirked. You know, when I beat you I'll get your fame. Kurubi said taking off towards Naruto. Naruto just stood there arms crossed. Kurubi tried to hit Naruto with the same attack he just used on Sanji. Naruto just grabbed his fist with a loud smack. Naruto stood completely unharmed, holding Kurubi's fist like it was nothing. Naruto looked at Kurubi with a calm look then squeezed his fist hard. Kurubi fell to one knee with a pained look. I said I'm not going to fight you. Naruto said calmly. I made a promise, and I don't break my promises. Naruto leaned in and whispered in Kurubi's ear. You're nothing compared to Jinbei. Naruto said. Kurubi's eyes widened. That's right, I know Jinbe, I even had the pleasure of fighting him not too long ago. He continued. You're not even on good enough to be a beginner, let alone being called a master. Naruto finished. Now go back, and wait for your opponent to catch his breath and fight him. Naruto said pushing Kurubi over to where he was before rushing over. Zoro vs. Hachi. Rokutoryu, please what a loser. A voice said. Hachi, and Kurubi looked over and saw Zoro standing up one hand on his knee looking down. You're not dead, Hachi asked. Let me make one thing perfectly clear, you sorry excuse for a swordsman. He said. There's a certain man I need to face, and until I see him. He continued raising his head up and glared. Not even death himself will touch me. He finished. Sanji. Sanji reached into his pocket to fetch out another cigarette. He lit it with a match and took a drag, blowing some smoke out. The doctor looked over to him and exclaimed. Holy crap, he's still alive. He yelled at seeing Sanji getting up. That's the strongest punch a fishman's got. Sanji said, a little blood coming down his lip. The old man's kick was like 100 times more powerful than that. He continued walking back towards Arlong Park. Zoro vs. Hachi. What's wrong with you, Zoro? Hachi asked looking at Zoro who was panting. You look like crap. He finished. I've already showed these pathetic humans my Rokutoryu, there's not a chance in hell you'll defeat me in your condition. Zoro just took his bandana and tied it around his head shadowing his eyes. Shut the hell up, Zoro said still panting. Zoro Aniki sure's taking a beating. Yosaku exclaimed. The doctor looked at Zoro and said. His fever with his wounds must be making him delirious, if his wounds open up he will die. He said worriedly. He doesn't have time to think about that right now. Johnny said. Yeah, besides Zoro Aniki's the only one who can take down that Rokutoryu freak. Yosaku finished. I'll show you. Zoro said his sword in his mouth. Johnny Yosaku. He yelled to them. Let me borrow your swords. Johnny and Yosaku got up and grabbed their swords. Yeah, okay. They said throwing their swords at Zoro. Damn, I don't know how long I'll last. Zoro thought. Swords coming at you. Johnny yelled. Catch them. Yosaku yelled also. Hachi got into his stance. Ha, now you'll know why two human hands can't hold up to my style. Look out. Johnny and Yosaku yelled their swords closing in. Hachi sped forward. Swinging his swords around. Rokutoryu Takoshi Kaiken, 6-sword style tentacle overload. Zoro caught Johnny and Yosaku's swords and dodged all of Hachi's strikes. Santoryu. He thought dodging and blocking. Toro Nagashi, streaming wolf swords. Zoro stopping a few feet behind Hachi still holding a pose. Suddenly Hachi screamed in pain and some blood flew from his chest. Hachi turned around showing the wound on his chest. How dare you cut me up like that? He said angrily. Now I'm really pissed off, I'll kill you bastard, that was just a lucky strike, you won't beat my next move. He exclaimed. I have 6 swords, you won't beat me with 3, 6 is more. Hachi yelled. Zoro just panted and calmly said. I've never been good at math. Quote. He said eyes shadowed. He turned around and glared at Hachi. 3 swords, 6, it doesn't matter how many swords you have. He exclaimed, gripping his swords tightly. Mine will always carry more weight. He finished. Hachi just stared at him for a second. Weight you say? He asked. I know it may not look it, but my swords weigh over 300 pounds, each. He exclaimed. That's more than your puny human swords put together. Hachi finished. I meant the burden, oh forget it. Zoro said with a sweat dropped. Hachi brought his swords tips together. Ryokotoryu Taketsubo no Kame, octopus pot stance. Closing parenthesis quote. Hachi ran forward but Zoro blocked it with his swords. Hachi smirked. Shin Shun. Teiko age. Take New Year's open body slam. Hachi breaks Zoro block and head-butted him into the air. Cheap shot. Yoshiko yelled. How's that? Hachi asked, running you over to where Zoro was falling onto the ground. Rokutoryu Ogi. Rokuto no waltz of the 6 swords. Hachi starts to spins all 6 swords over his head like a fan blade, intent on shredding the descending Zoro to pieces. Ha, you'll be killed the second you touch my blades. He said to the falling Zoro. Zoro continued falling till he hit the attack. Arlong, and Kurubi smirked. Ah, Hachi yelled with Zoro in front of him, leaning on one leg, one sword behind his back, add the other in front of him. Damn it, Hachi exclaimed, looking to his cut-up hands. First you dodge my first attack, now you cut up my hands like nothing. Hachi yelled. You son of a bitch, I'll tear you limb from limb. He yelled at Zoro, who had his back turned, breathing heavily and stumbling a little. Naruto and the others. Damn, Zoro's barely hanging on. Naruto said worriedly. He looked to Luffy. You're sure Zoro can win this, right? He asked. Luffy looked up at Naruto and grinned. Of course I have faith in him, I can't have a weak swordsman on my crew. He said with a big grin. Zoro versus Hachi. Even if this wound would kill a normal man. I can't lose. Zoro thought. Ryokotoryu Taketsubo no Kame. Hachi exclaimed, charging Zoro again. My body must not feel pain. Zoro thought, bringing his swords up to chest level, leaning slightly to the right. If I'm ever going to beat Hawkeyes, I must be extraordinary. He thought, swords leaning on their sides. Shin Shun. Teiko age. Quote. Hachi tried the move again until Tatsumaki, Dragon Twister. Zoro starts to spin with his swords to create a dragon-like tornado, breaking Hachi's swords and throwing him high into the air. Hachi was unconscious before he hit the ground. Hachi. Arlong said disbelievingly. Now Fishman, do you understand the weight I carry in my 3 swords? Zoro asked on both of his knees. Kurubi came up behind him ready to bring him down. How dare you do that to Hachi? He said, and was about to bring his fist down onto Zoro until he was kicked by Sanji. You, Kurubi exclaimed. Sanji smirked. Thought you got rid of me. Sanji said behind Zoro. I'm impressed, I didn't think there was anyone in the East Blue who could survive one of my punches. He said, staring at Sanji. Oh, I know quite a few. At this restaurant I used to work for. He said with a big grin. Naruto came up to him. Congratulations, Zoro. He said, picking Zoro up and taking him over to the gate where the doctor started looking over his wounds. Ha, I knew you would win, Zoro. Luffy exclaimed, his hands on his knees. Zoro smirked. Was there any doubt? He asked. Nami. Nami sitting outside her house bandaging her shoulder. That's enough crying, she thought, wiping away her tears. She stood up and slapped herself lightly. It's time to make a decision. She started running towards Arlong Park. I gotta go, they're all fighting for me. Chapter 4. Last time. Kurubi came up behind him ready to bring him down. How dare you do that to Hachi? He said, and was about to bring his fist down onto Zoro until he was kicked by Sanji. You, Kurubi exclaimed. Sanji smirked. Thought you got rid of me. Sanji said behind Zoro. I'm impressed, I didn't think there was anyone in the East Blue who could survive one of my punches. He said, staring at Sanji. Oh, I know quite a few. At this restaurant I used to work for. He said with a big grin. Naruto came up to him. Congratulations, Zoro. He said, picking Zoro up and taking him over to the gate where the doctor started looking over his wounds. Ha, I knew you would win, Zoro. Luffy exclaimed, his hands on his knees. Zoro smirked. Was there any doubt? He asked. Nami. Nami sitting outside her house bandaging her shoulder. That's enough crying, she thought, wiping away her tears. She stood up and slapped herself lightly. It's time to make a decision. She started running towards Arlong Park. I gotta go, they're all fighting for me. Now. Sanji versus Kurubi. Sanji threw a couple of kicks at Kurubi, but he blocked every one. Come on, fish sticks, is that the best you can do? Sanji taunted, throwing more kicks. Ha, like I would use any of my best moves on some human. Kurubi said with a sneer. Right before Sanji tried to kick him again, he dodged and got right behind him. Wanto Jiri, forearm sledge. He slammed his arm fin into the back of Sanji's neck, knocking him into the water with a big splash. Kurubi smirked and dived in after him. Naruto and the others. Damn. Naruto cursed. Sanji's going to have one hell of a time with him underwater. He said with a hand on his chin. He is at a disadvantage. Luffy looked at Naruto for a second before replying. Sanji will find a way out, he's a strong fighter, one have faith in him. He said with a big grin. Suddenly they heard laughter and looked over and saw Arlong laughing. You pathetic humans are no match for us above ground, you're really screwed underwater, I bet Karubi. Quote. That's as far as he got before he felt his left cheek sting. He looked to the left and saw a throwing knife embedded in the wall beside him. He lifted his hand to his cheek and saw blood on his hand. Looking over to where the knife came from Naruto, who was now glaring at him. Shut up, Naruto said. It's not over until one of them has floated to the top. He said, turning his attention back to the water. Sanji versus Karubi. Sanji went about halfway down to the bottom before stopping. Karubi looking at Sanji's unmoving body thinking he won. He started swimming back up. But felt someone pull his hair. He looked back and saw Sanji holding his hair glaring at him. Where do you think you're going? Sanji asked. Karubi pulled his hair from Sanji's grip before saying. Do you really think you can fight me underwater? He asked. You can't even breathe down here, let alone fight. He said, seeing Sanji holding his hands over his mouth trying to keep his air in his lungs. Karubi smirked. Alright then. Itomaki Kumite, dueling hair tether. Karubi wraps his ponytail around Sanji's waist and pulls him in close. Sanji tried to kick him, but being underwater his kick was slow for Karubi to duck under. See. Karubi exclaimed. Being a human, your attacks are weaker underwater. He said with a smirk. But my attacks aren't, in fact they're stronger. He said and got in a stance. Kaisoku. Harakudashige undersea bladder buster. Karubi said, darting forward and uses the momentum to deliver a side kick to Sanji's stomach. Mouth agape. Sanji flew back as far as Karubi's hair would let him go. Karubi grabs his hair and starts to spin, bringing Sanji back to him. Kakato Otoshi, flaming axe kick. Karubi brought his foot and kicked Sanji in the back of the head. Swimming down past Sanji he kicked him in the jaw. Kachiage Hisoku, back foot jaw breaker. Karubi swam up to Sanji, seeing him glare at him. He pulled his fist back. Joden Bakusho, Gaffa Pom Bomb. Karubi hits Sanji in the stomach. Letting his hair unravel, Sanji flew through the water and hit the rock foundation with a crash. Karubi smirked, then he saw Sanji swimming fast for the surface. Air. Sanji thought swimming up to the surface, but Karubi blocked his path. Your stamina for a human is impressive. Karubi said, arms crossed. I'm not even sure you're human. Sanji glared, waving one arm. Crap, he thought. Get the hell out of my way, I need to breathe. He thought. Karubi smirked. Naruto and the others. He's been down there a long time. Johnny said worriedly. I hope he's alright. Luffy looked over to Johnny. Don't worry, I'm confident he'll win. He said. I hope so. Naruto said, keeping a close eye on Arlong, making sure he doesn't try anything. Sanji versus Karubi. Didn't you say anyone who hurts a lady is a piece of crap? Karubi taunted Sanji with his arms crossed. And look where your chivalry got you. He said. You're going to die by my hand. He smirked. And when I'm done with you, I'll kill Zoro, that long-nosed guy, the kid in the red vest, Naruto, and the entire village. He said with a dark grin. And last I'll kill that traitorous bitch Nami. He started laughing. He grabbed Sanji by the back of his shirt. I'll admit you have some skill for a human, but in the end you're just weak compared to fishmen. He finished. He wrapped his arms around Sanji. Your body doesn't react well to a fast change in pressure dose it. Karubi said with a smirk. Apakushi Chaka Koro, pulverizing pressure plunge. Karubi started diving towards the bottom at a fast pace. Damn it. Sanji thought, pressure hitting his stomach. If I want to save Nami, I need to save myself. He finished as blood came out of his mouth when they hit the bottom. Sanji flipped Karubi off. Huh, what's with him? He just won't die. Karubi whispered. Well, let's try it again. He said, swimming back up. Fishmen use their lungs to breathe above ground. Sanji thought. And use their gills underwater. He thought, looking at Karubi's gills. Meaning their gills are useless above ground, and lungs useless underwater. Karubi looked at Sanji. Ready to go again? He asked. Sanji grabbed his shoulder and blew air into Karubi's gills. Above ground. Suddenly air bubbles started coming up and out popped Sanji, gasping for air. All right Sanji, I knew you'd come up. Luffy exclaimed, pumping his fist high in the air. Sanji knelt on the ground, panting, getting his breath back. Karubi grabbed on the ledge, coughing. Sanji pointed at him. All right you bastard, come up here and fight where I can breathe. He exclaimed. Karubi climbed out of the water. Stupid human. Karubi said, standing up. It doesn't matter where I fight, land, water. He said. I'm stronger than you either way. He glared at Sanji. When I attacked Yo before was just a sample of what's to come. Karubi got into his stance. Now witness my ultimate technique. That's as far as he said when Sanji's kicked him. Collier, neck. Kurubi hit the ground and made a small crater. You said my love was worthless. Sanji said and kicked him when he was getting up. Apal, shoulder, Sanji kicked him in the shoulder. I can't protect anyone, right? Sanji asked Kurubi, who was now on his knees. Sanji got behind him on one hand. Katelit, ribs. Sanji kicked him in the ribs. Cell, lower back. Sanji followed with a kick to the back. Poitrine, chest. Sanji kicked him down in the chest. Jigget, legs. Sanji kicked him in the kneecaps, sending Kurubi flying a few feet. Kurubi got up a little wobbly. You son of a bitch. He exclaimed and pulled his fist back. Senmeguera Saiken, 1000 brick fist. Sanji disappeared from his sight. Muton shot, sheep shot. Sanji kicked him in the face and sending him into Arlong Park and came out and hit the wall. On the other side, knocked out. The villagers and Johnny and Yosaku's jaws were dropped at seeing Sanji take out Kurubi. Naruto looked at Sanji. That fighting style looks familiar. He mused thoughtfully. It's the black leg style. Yosaku said. Naruto looked at him. Isn't that Zeph? Red leg fighting style? He asked. Yes, Sanji was not only his disciple in cooking, but also in his fighting style. Johnny finished for Yosaku. Naruto looked over to Luffy. You've got some pretty strong crewmates, Luffy. He said. Luffy looked up to Naruto and grinned. Of course, if I'm going to be king of the pirates I need strong nakama like Sanji, and Zoro. Usopp yelled at Luffy. Hey, what about me? He asked. Luffy looked at him for a second. Oh yeah, you too. Usopp got a storm cloud over his head, depressed. Don't worry Usopp, he just didn't see you fight since I took your opponent. Luffy said to Usopp, hoping to cheer him up. It worked. You're right, Naruto. Usopp exclaimed, striking a pose. I just need to find an opponent worthy of Captain Usopp. Naruto and the villager sweat dropped. Sanji. Now it's done. Sanji said, getting up and looking to the hole Kurubi made. He's not getting up from that. He stated, walking over to Luffy and the others. Nice fight, Sanji. Naruto said with a grin. It was nothing. Sanji said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a wet cigarette. Damn, anyone got a smoke? He asked. I do. One of the villagers said, giving him a cigarette. Naruto pulled out a lighter. I don't smoke, I just keep that for emergencies. Naruto said, giving Sanji his lighter. Thanks. Sanji said, lighting his cigarette and giving Naruto back the lighter. You're welcome. Naruto said, pocketing his lighter. Sanji took a drag from his lighter. Fish can't fight a cook. He said. Arlong. Kurubi. Hachi. Arlong said and stood up, glaring at Luffy and the others. You bastards, you've killed my brothers one by one. He said, angrily clenching his fist. I'm afraid I've let you get too carried away. He yelled at them. Amazing. Nojiko thought. Those guys beat the top 3 of Arlong gang. She exclaimed in awe. Sanji looked over to her with a heart in his eye. Nojiko-chan, did you see what I did to that fishman? He asked. Nojiko looked over to him. Yeah, you really beat him good. Sanji tried running over to her but Naruto stopped him. Easy there, Casanova. Naruto said. It's not over yet. Luffy still needs to beat that bastard Arlong. Sanji looked back towards Arlong and nodded. You're right, the ladies can wait for a little while. He said, taking another drag from his cigarette. I don't need to touch you. Arlong said, picking up some water in his hand. You puny humans are so weak that I can kill you by just playing around with a little water. He said. That's the difference between us. Naruto looked at Arlong with a bored look. Shut the hell up. Naruto said. All you've done this whole time is talked, put up or shut up. Arlong seeing red through the water towards Naruto, intent on taking him out, but Naruto easily dodged. Man, you're even slower than the other fishman. He whined. Arlong was walking over to kill everyone until. Look, it's Nami. A villager said, looking at Nami, who was staring at the ground. Well, what are you doing here, Nami? Arlong asked with a chuckle. Nami looked at him, eyes shadowed by Luffy's straw hat. I'm here to kill you. She said seriously. Nami, you're here. Luffy exclaimed, standing up. Nami looked at him, eyes wide. Luffy, she asked. She gained a tick mark. Idiot. She hit him in the head. What are you doing here when you should be kicking Arlong's ass? She asked, staring down at Luffy, raising her fist to hit him again. Calm down, Nami-chan. Naruto said, grabbing onto her arm. Luffy was waiting for his turn. He said with a smile. Zoro and Sanji had to take care of the cannon fodder first so they wouldn't get in the way. Nami looked and saw Chuu and Hachi unconscious. They beat them? She asked Naruto. Well, Zoro beat Hachi and Sanji beat Kurubi. Nojiko said, making herself known. But Naruto pretty easily beat Chuu. She continued. Chuu didn't even touch him. Naruto beat him like it was nothing. Nami stared at Naruto. Is that true? Nami asked. Naruto shrugged. Yeah, he wasn't that good of a fight, he didn't even warm me up. Nojiko came up and threw her arm around his shoulder. He even destroyed part of the roof that Hachi was going to use to crush Luffy when he was stuck in the ground to Ruble using only his fist. Nojiko said while Nami's eyes widened. Not only that, he practically took out Arlong with one move. Nojiko continued. Nami just looked at Naruto. Then why don't you beat him? It sounds like you could easily take Arlong out. Nami asked. Naruto pointed to Luffy. Luffy wants to be the one to take him down. Naruto continued. In his exacted words, Nami is our crewmate, and Nakama. Nami looked tearfully at Luffy. So I promised to stay out if I could. Only reason I fought Chuu was he came over and threatened Nojiko, and the other villagers. Naruto smiled at her. Besides, I know Luffy can beat him, so just sit back and watch. Naruto said. Naruto looked towards Luffy, who was stretching for his fight. Luffy? Naruto asked. Luffy stopped stretching and looked to Naruto. You ready? Luffy just nodded and got into his stance. Hell yeah, I'm ready to kick Arlong's ass. Luffy exclaimed, looking at Arlong with a hard look. He stretched his hand behind him. Gomu Gomu no. Pistol gum gum pistol. Luffy's hand shot forward, hitting Arlong, who was too busy glaring at Naruto to dodge in the face. Alright Arlong, I'm ready to kick your ass. Luffy said, glaring at Arlong. The end. Thank you for watching, guys.